Okay, good morning and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. That squeal you heard was the refrigerator cycling on. Anyway, that being said and put on to the side, I have two 40% alcohol clear rums. And this one is a Caribbean style rum. Not sure what that really means, but so that means it's not from the Caribbean. It's just in the style, which I guess just means rum because that's where it originated. But rum with natural flavors. Oh, yay. Um, yes, it's an inexpensive handle bottle, plastic. That's what I call it, a handle, because you can grab it. It's got a gripper on the back. This silver rum with natural flavors was introduced in 2006. Legacy Distilling Company. It's from somewhere in America, I would think Kentucky, probably Owensboro, which is where they rum distillery. Well, they distill rum there. It's a distillery. They can make anything there, but from what I understand, so they're just distilling rum. But that's may have changed by now. It's bottled in Kentucky, and it was made for a CVS pharmacy, but that contract was expired. CVS lost interest in this line of private label liquors. They had vodka, rum, American blended, and then that's it. It's over. I did pay $10.99 for this bottle with the CVS loyalty card. But guess what? Last year, hello, viewers. Last year, the trademark was acquired or taken over by Casey's General Stores of the central United States, Arkansas, Missouri. They're in Texas, Mississippi, not Louisiana yet. So they took over the trademark after CVS basically walked away from the trademark, which is allowed. I mean, trademarks protect your brand from other people copying it. But if you abandon the trademark, then somebody else can take it up if they're interested. But anyway, this is Captain Morgan, and they're not walking away from that trademark. This is Captain Morgan white rum, and they've changed the label at least twice since I bought this about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't know why they keep changing the label, but this was introduced in 2014. It's 5 times distilled. I forgot to write that in the notes. It's got an embossed glass bottle. My friend David was looking at this bottle yesterday. He's like, I'm going to take a photo of that. You haven't tried either one? Well, you could find this one easily. Captain Morgan's pretty much everywhere. Gran Legacy could be a challenge to find. And so why are you going to take a photo? He said, because you have a glass bottle. He's always giving me a hard time for these plastic bottles. I said, well, it only comes in glass. And I said, they had a deal on it. I got a discount. He said, I could have figured that. But they did. It was $5 off if you use this rebate, which I sent it in, or you can scan it now and get the $5. So it was $19.99 at the time. Now it's higher now. It's higher now. Yeah, glass is nicer. But I ended up getting it for $14.99 plus tax. Pretty nice, huh? So can't complain. Let's see. Let me update that. So 5 times distilled. Forgot to put that. Caribbean white rum. It is actually from the Caribbean, and it's distilled in St. Croix, on the island of St. Croix in the United States Virgin Islands. There's a distillery called Captain Morgan Rum Distillery, believe it or not. And let's see, Captain Morgan. 5 times distilled. It cleans it up, 5 times distilled. You get it cleaner on the second one, third, fourth, by the fifth. It's like pure rum. Now, they water it down to 40 proof 80 proof, I mean 40% alcohol. Captain Morgan was started in 1943. That's how old the brand is. Started during the Second World War. Kind of an odd time to start a brand, but that's what they did. And it was started by Seagram's. You've heard of Seagram's. They started it. It wasn't a company. It was never a company. It was just their brand. And they sold it to Diageo around 25 years ago. About 25, yeah, 2000, 2001, when the Seagram's company owners decided to exit the liquor business. They had the largest liquor company in the world, and the people that owned Seagram's, I think this was a mistaken idea. Their idea was that liquor wasn't really going anywhere. It was sort of a stagnant industry. I guess they didn't anticipate the bourbon boom, but they weren't too big into bourbon production. Anyway, they had bourbon brands, but they didn't really mess with it too much. They had Benchmark they introduced in 1968, and they ended up selling that to the Sazerac company. So they just decided to get out, and they sold all their stuff. And Diageo got a hold of Captain Morgan. Now, Diageo was an up-and-coming company. That's a Guinness beer company. But for their umbrella company, they call it Diageo. They, which I think is a word that doesn't have any meaning. But they, when the Seagram's owners said they were getting out of the business, Diageo stepped up and put down the big money for the big brands. They bought the Crown Royal, Seagram's 7 Crown, that famous American blended whiskey that every liquor store in the world sells, or definitely in America. They bought the Johnny Walker brand. They really bought the big stuff. And we all know how popular Captain Morgan is. They have the famous spice rum, which, by the way, I've never tried. Yes, it was a good deal. Thank you. I'm sure Captain Morgan spice rum is good, because it wouldn't be the #1 spice rum in the world, right? Captain Morgan is like one of the top rums, but everything they make is not spiced. Mostly it is. Mostly what they make is flavored rum. That's like their calling card, No, mine. Now these are both clear, so the appearance isn't going to matter. I don't know which is which, and I'm not going to look. I got it pretty much even on the pour, not quite, but close. But in 2014, they introduced, in reality, reintroduced a clear rum. No flavoring added, to my knowledge. Now, remember, if you read the regulations, you may not know this, you can add flavoring to rum, and you don't have to disclose that. You can disclose it, but you don't have to. So you never know. You're never going to know if the rum has flavoring or not. Or I guess you could email the company and ask them. If they avoid answering the question, you'll know the answer, right? Here's the web page for Captain Morgan White. See, they changed the label again. Now it's called Captain Morgan's Signature White Rum. The pristine waters of the Caribbean inspired the creation of Captain Morgan White Rum. White rum that is 5 times distilled and made with fine cane molasses. Captain Morgan rum is as smooth as the captain himself. I'm pretty sure this is bottled in the Caribbean. Let me double check, because I'm funny if I find out otherwise. Let's see. Have the same write-up on the back, more or less. Produced by Captain Morgan Rum Company, Norwalk, Connecticut. That's the headquarters of Diageo in America. But it doesn't say it's bottled in America. It's just Connecticut, because that's their offices. There's nothing there. There's no facility that I'm aware of. It's just offices. Just like a lot of the Sazerac, Louisville. And I had the impression that they were bottling stuff in Louisville. Actually, the man on the phone with Buffalo Trace told me, nah, that's just offices there. We don't have any actual production facilities there. So there it is. They have a product there. There was a product back in the 1970s, for sure, I know, because I saw a magazine advertisement for something called Captain Morgan Silver Rum. Was it the same as this thing? It's probably almost identical. Maybe, I don't know. But for whatever reason, and I do not for sure, they had dropped it. It was gone for the longest time, and they brought it back. Most likely, people kept asking them, sending them emails or phone calls. Do y'all have a regular unflavored rum? And they kept asking, and they said, all right, okay, we'll bring it back. And it seems to be very popular. I see it at Walmart. I see it, well, everywhere, everywhere. Sweet chili lime. That's a new one. I hadn't seen that one before. Here's the original. We have all seen that, although I've never had it. Here comes the train. Here's a new one. Limited edition. Westbound. Heading toward Baton Rouge into the city. Okay. This is a special movie companion. A lot of people are going to buy these and never open it as like a collectible. Only available in the following states: Arizona, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Maine, Oregon, Texas, Florida, California, New York. So I won't be able to get it. Not that I would have bought it anyway, but coming soon, Captain Morgan limited edition military design. Military channels only. So you get at those commissaries. Okay. Vita Coco Spike. I've seen those. Yes, never had it. Seen Captain Morgan Sweet versus Heat. I've had I've had the sweet. I haven't tried the heat, but I've never seen the heat. I've pointed with some of those kind of products in the past where they had a lot of sweet, but it wasn't too much heat. You know, they call spicy hot. I call barely noticeable. Just never had it. Black spice rum, never seen it. Private stock, 9-year age Captain Morgan spice rum. I have seen that around. Yes, definitely. Hundreds, no, don't recall that. Tropical punch, see those all the time. No thanks. Sliced up, Long Island ice. Yep. I've seen these around, and the Hurricane. And then there's one called Sliced. Oh, that's the regular one. Sliced up is counters. Yeah, these are 8%. Yeah, these will. That's why they call it up. You know, it's powered up. So as you can see, and they even had one called Captain Morgan Sliced Apple, but I'm not seeing that. Maybe oh, there it is. Overlooked it. Sliced apple. Yeah, I had it. I bought a liter of it at a local store. They had it for $4.99. Amazing price. And it tastes like green apple, so no shock there. All right, Joe Cobb says, morning, Ron. Good morning to you, Joe, there in Canada. Whoops. Pick up some people from Toronto Airport here at 12 p.m. Wow. I've been to that airport. From Nova Scotia. They are moving here. Oh, really? I've been to Nova Scotia, too. I drove to Nova Scotia, me and family members. That was a long drive. We didn't drive directly there. We went through different provinces. We went to Ontario, Ottawa. We went to Toronto, Ottawa. Interesting, you're talking about Toronto. Look what I'm wearing, Blue Jays. Then we drove through Quebec, went to Quebec City, went to New Brunswick twice, went to Prince Edward Island, drove across that Confederation Bridge, then took the ferry to cross the Northumberland Strait to Nova Scotia. So that was like an Eastern Canadian tour. Didn't make it to Newfoundland. That's really far out. So that's way east. So I'd like to go there one day, but yeah, that's a bit of a distance. Sweet chili lime rum. I've seen it all now. Yep. Yeah, that flavor is common now. That's from a scary movie, says My Secret Life. I'm in Michigan. I like to try the black spice captains. Yeah, I've been to Toronto and British Columbia Rockies. I've never been to British Columbia. I've only been to the eastern provinces, never been to the western provinces, unfortunately. And of course, Sarnia and Windsor. Yes, I've been to Sarnia. They have a beach there. I went to the beach. We went to the beach. I was with someone. Went to Windsor. I've been to Point Pelee, the southernmost mainland point of Canada. It just makes like a point on the sand. Like it's funny. Look, and we had free cake because it was Canada Day. It was the birthday party for Canada, and they had this huge cake shaped like the map of Canada with the flag on it. You know, the icing was color of the flag, and it was chocolate cake. And they said, "Would you like some cake?" Well, of course we said yes, and they had free soft drinks. That was at Point Pelee National Park. I'd love to visit Newfoundland, says My Secret Life. Good morning, everyone, says Jason Whitcomb. Speaking of Toronto, I once saw Joe Theismann play there when I was a teenager. Oh, when he was in the CFL, huh? That's right. A lot of people don't know he was in the Canadian Football League first. My Secret Life says. Clinking the mugs. My dad had a Labatt, so as an adult, I like Labatt Blue Light. Okay. I've been to the Blue Jays twice. I went to 2 games. Took a stadium tour of Rogers Center. Great tour. And I went to 2 games. And they opened the roof while I was there because they closed it because it started raining. So I got to see them close the roof. That was interesting. Got to ride the subway in Toronto. Got to watch a cricket match across the street from the hotel at this municipal park. I didn't understand what was happening. I had somewhat of an understanding of it. And when I went to Jamaica, I saw them playing cricket also. Oh, Newfoundland. It's the only British colony that ever became an independent country and then asked to be a colony again. And they said, well, okay, because they went bankrupt in 1930, the mid-30s, early 30s. True story. It was the Dominion of Newfoundland. They had their own governor. They didn't call it Governor General for some reason, but they were going to be their own country and everything. And then they went bankrupt and had no money. It was really mismanaged. Plus, they had the Great Depression, which was part of it. The British government was like, well, okay. So they took it over and they had this government called a commission government. They had this commission that was appointed to run the place and get their books balanced, get their finances straightened out. And then there was a controversial vote in 1949. They wanted to join. What a question was like, would you like to remain a commission, govern state? And they weren't really keen on that. Or would you like to become an independent country, or would you like to join Canada as a province? So they very close vote. It was like 52% to 48. I mean, it was maybe closer than that, but it did pass, and they joined Canada as the 10th province, which was easy to do because it was the same monarch, King George VI. So they didn't have to transfer. All they did was just transfer the status. Just a simple law, British law said, okay, attached. You know a lot of facts, Ryan. Well, I have to study history. I used to teach history as a job, so I'm always studying it. I know Molson is the beer of choice for the Canadians hockey team. Okay. Really? So yeah, that's a true story. Only British colony to ever ask to become a colony again. Went, mostly independent, then made an application. Now there was one that revolted, but they were never recognized as a true country. You might know what country I'm talking about. They declared themselves independent. The rest of the world ignored that and considered them an illegal government. And it went on for 14 years, like a standoff for 14 years between Great Britain and this rebel colony. And finally, the colony's government just, they said they were a republic. They had their own president, their own flag thing. But finally, they surrendered, basically. They just signed a law saying we dissolve ourselves. And we will, as of whatever, midnight tonight, we will become one of Her Majesty's dominions once again. And then the British sent a governor down there to rule the country until they had an election and it could have a legitimate independent government. True story. There's only one British colony that ever declared independence without permissions and got away with it. But it was actually 13 colonies that did it all on the same day. And you know where I'm going. You know what country that is. Okay. Red Wings beers Labatt for some reason. Huh. Well, they got sponsorship agreements, how that works. This smells I have to say from my memory that the CFL in 1972 or in that area was as good or maybe even better than the NFL. Good college players from the U.S. used to go to the CFL, not anymore. Yeah, back then it was kind of even, but then the television contracts were so powerful in the USA that the NFL just took over in talent and everything. That's really what made the difference, huge American television market. And do you know at one time, the CFL and NFL traded players with each other? Trades, like the NFL teams trade players with each other. They did that NFL to CFL. Didn't happen a lot, but it happened. True story. Okay, smells good, but doesn't smell like much. Okay, so this is kind of a neutral aroma, just generalized smell, but not bad, nothing bad. More neutral. Some aroma like yeast or some like sugarcane fermented, but so there's like a fermentation aroma here, and there's really nothing here. So I'm thinking Captain Morgan neutral must be Grand Legacy, but that's I've gotten it wrong already a couple of times. So Grand Legacy is a funny product. It'll mix you up. You think it's so cheap it's going to be nasty, and then it isn't nasty. But it is from Legacy Distilling / Sazerac / Buffalo Trace. So they tend to be quality, even their low end tends to be quality. Okay, this is sweet. There's sugar cane, molasses, it's sugar. Well, maybe there's some vanilla. Don't know. That's right, Jay, says Jason. The NFL also used to play the CFL in exhibition games. Oh, I didn't know that. One half was NFL rules and the other half CFL rules. That's a good one. That's a good one. That was a good way to do it. But what did they do about the field? Different size field, right? Okay. These are close, but I think this one is Captain Morgan. The one I thought was neutral smelling. So, well, that's what I thought. But I think that's the Captain Morgan because it's got a cleaner flavor, nicer flavor, more maybe put together. Oh, and by the way, Captain Morgan was an actual man, and he was the first governor of Jamaica. It says it on the bottle, 1680. He was the first governor of Jamaica. And Jamaica continued to have governors until 1962, at which point their status was elevated, and now they have a governor general representing the king. They went from governor, that's a colony, or today it's called British Overseas Territory, same thing. But they elevated now to a governor general. But like the Cayman Islands, for instance, they still, which used to be part of Jamaica, or ruled by Jamaica, I should say, through the governor's office. But they, when they made Jamaica independent realm with their governor general in 1962, then the Cayman Islands was broken off, just like the Turks and Caicos Islands. They were broken off into new colonies with their new flag. They had to make flags for them. Oh, and one more thing. Do you know when Newfoundland became a province, they didn't have their own flag? You have a provincial flag, or we have state flags. They just had the British flag. That was their flag, the flag of England or the Great Britain, the United Kingdom. United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So that was kind of unusual, right? Then they decided, hey, well, how about if we make our own flag? That would make sense. And so they made their own flag, which is styled on the British flag if you look at it carefully. But they must have hired a pretty good artistic, commercial art company to come up with that flag. Pretty clever. I guess they tweaked it. I guess they did the 3 down, 11 players thing. Can't do much about the wide field and gigantic end zone. No. Now, I guess depending where they played, right? In Canada, use Canadian field, and US use a US field. Common sense. I think there's a little vanilla added. I don't know what the flavoring is. It says flavors, plural. So that is subject to be anything, I guess. Tampa Bay is as close as I've gotten to the Caribbean. Oh, okay. That's not too close. I wonder if they competed in the Olympics if they use the United Kingdom national anthem, if they use the UK flag. I don't know if Newfoundland ever competed in the Olympics as their own place. They may have back in the 1930s, 20s and 30s. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they used the British flag because that was their flag. They didn't even have their own. It was really weird. They became like a Dominion, which was like a semi-independent country, right? Dominion's like semi-independent, self-governing colony is what it was. But they didn't have a distinctive flag. It was just the royal, what they called the Union Jack or the Royal Union flag. So it was kind of weird, you know. Kind of weird. Okay. Now remember, South Africa got removed from the Commonwealth. Well, they actually left the Commonwealth in lieu of being kicked out. They didn't want to be embarrassed by getting kicked out for their apartheid policies. So they said, well, and the Dutch, they didn't like the British anyway. They hated taking allegiance to the crown. So they said, we're going to be a republic. And we don't want to be in the Commonwealth. The British people who lived down there, they wanted to stay in the Commonwealth. So that was a showdown that went on for 33 years. But finally they gave in and said, okay, we'll get rid of apartheid. You win. And then the government said, okay, we'll let them in the Commonwealth, back into the Commonwealth, since they're not going to have apartheid anymore. So they, in 1994, they were allowed back into the Commonwealth. They had to, do an application, and they voted on it. Yes, they can come back in, and then they had to agree to recognize Queen Elizabeth as the head of the Commonwealth, even though she was no longer the head of South Africa. They had their own president who was in the White House recently. I had no idea Captain Morgan was a real person. Yeah, governor of Jamaica and a buccaneer before that. Nice birds you got in the background. Yeah, I know. They're out there calling to each other. I don't think Captain Morgan is that much better, though. It's a little bit better, but it's not really extraordinarily better. Now, that's assuming I got them correct, because that's a chance I got it wrong. That would even be a strong argument. So if I've got it wrong, that means by default, Grand Legacy wins. I got it wrong. That's Grand Legacy. Why am I tasting vanilla with Captain Morgan? I can't explain it. But like I said, you can add flavor and then you don't have to put it on the bottle. So obviously, Grand Legacy is the winner because A, I couldn't tell them apart. B, it's really no worse than Captain Morgan, no better. It's not better. Well, actually, I did say it was a little bit better, didn't I? I said it was cleaner. So yeah, well, that's making me nervous. And 3, the price is lower, not way lower, but lower. What was the price on Grand Legacy again? $10.99. That was with the special reward card. So, and this was $19.99, but I got the $5 rebate. So yeah, I mean, that's, well, you could do something with $9. So like buy a sandwich at Burger King. But so, hey, Grand Legacy continues to amaze me. It should be getting killed every challenge, right? Like you would think on its face, it's a inexpensive, or if you want to say cheap store brand, fine. It should be getting massacred. Every taste challenge should be getting whipped, but that is not happening. So as you can see, that's a strong argument for the brand. All right, well, I'll try my best next time, but this thing got me perplexed. But y'all take care. I'm going to turn on the lights. Go turn on the news. Bye-bye, everybody.